This is the story of a gruesome crime that took place in an affluent neighborhood in London. Sabrina Kouider, a British woman, had all the opportunities to live the glamorous, wealthy, and carefree life she had always dreamed of since a young age. However, she was never satisfied. No partner seemed good enough for her, and she constantly believed that she was destined for fame, attention, and luxury. Her unfulfilled ambitions and obsessive fantasies eventually spiraled into delusions accompanied by violent outbursts. Tragically, Sabrina directed all her anger towards a defenseless man. This case became one of the most atrocious and widely publicized in British history. A loving mother turned into the victim of a deranged sadist. Sabrina Kouider, born on December 5, 1982, in a London suburb, had a unique heritage blending French and Algerian roots from her parents. This distinctive mix likely contributed to her striking appearance and fiery temperament. As the eldest of 4 children, Sabrina was adored by her family and constantly praised as a role model for others. When she was 2 years old, her family immigrated to France and settled in Paris, where she spent most of her childhood and teenage years. Sabrina's complex personality began to emerge during her school days. Former classmates later recalled her as arrogant, domineering, self-centered, and extremely selfish. She had very few friends, both at school and in her neighborhood, as she considered everyone around her unworthy of her time. She particularly displayed hostility towards other bright and outgoing girls, viewing them as rivals and adversaries. With her stunning looks, a captivating brunette with brown eyes, and an impressive physique, Sabrina could have pursued a career in modeling if she possessed the ability to genuinely connect with others instead of manipulating them. As a child, she participated in sports and showed some interest in music during her youth. However, her inconsistency, impatience for immediate results, and lack of dedication hindered her success in any field. Years later, Sabrina alleged that she faced severe mistreatment from her maternal relatives in France during her formative years. Nevertheless, these allegations were never verified or substantiated. Conversely, her family contended that she was pampered and always sought attention. Engaged in sports as a teenager, Sabrina sustained a back injury that led to a reliance on prescription painkillers. She resorted to obtaining these medications unlawfully, resulting in her apprehension and a police caution. Sabrina exhibited an intense focus on herself and her appearance, constantly craving attention. She harbored no doubts about her future, envisioning a life of opulence, glamour, celebrity encounters, and personal stardom. At times, it appeared that her fantasies overshadowed reality, as she believed her rightful place was in Hollywood. Graduating from the Sorbonne with a degree in English and French literature, Sabrina Kouider claimed various roles in the fashion industry since 2006, such as stylist, makeup artist, fashion designer, or creator, despite lacking substantial expertise in these fields. Renowned for her striking beauty, Sabrina had a talent for captivating men and exploiting their affections. However, she never viewed any of her admirers as suitable for a serious relationship. She was patiently awaiting a prince who would unquestionably obey her. Uncertain about her life aspirations after completing her education, Sabrina felt entitled to everything without exerting effort. Nonetheless, she enrolled at the esteemed Sorbonne University and concurrently worked at a confectionery store for financial sustenance. It was there, at 18 years old, that she crossed paths with Wissam Madouni. 6 years her senior, Madouni served as a manager at a prominent French company's headquarters and pursued studies at one of Paris's most prestigious universities, aiming for a master's degree to advance his career. Despite not possessing striking looks, membership in exclusive clubs, or connections to the celebrity world, he fell deeply in love with Sabrina and was prepared to cater to all her desires and whims. Sabrina, on the other hand, was also drawn to Madouni's charm. She saw him as someone she could easily manipulate, while also viewing him as a gateway to a life of wealth. Madouni possessed ambition and the potential for a successful career, and he was more than willing to shower Sabrina with lavish gifts and pampering. The couple began their relationship in 2000 and quickly made the decision to move in together. However, it didn't take long for Sabrina to reveal her true nature, as she constantly sought to control every aspect of Madouni's life. If her demands were not met, she resorted to tantrums, manipulation, and even physical violence. Furthermore, she openly cheated on Maduni without any remorse or attempt to hide her actions. Despite numerous attempts to end the relationship and break free from Sabrina's grasp, Maduni always found himself returning, unable to escape his deep love for her.
In 2001, Maduni achieved his master's degree and received a significant promotion, resulting in a substantial increase in income. He spared no expense when it came to Sabrina's luxurious clothing and entertainment. Maduni, who shared Franco-Algerian roots with Sabrina, felt a strong connection with her. According to some reports, the couple had a Muslim ceremony to celebrate their marriage in the fall of 2001. However, this religious ceremony did not hold legal weight, and their union remained unofficial. They had a son together, and Maduni officially acknowledged his paternity.
However, years later, a Frenchman named Anthony Francois claimed to be the child's father. Francois, a witness in Kouider's trial, described her as volatile, unpredictable, promiscuous, and manipulative. In 2008, the global financial crisis struck, causing the company where Maduni worked to go bankrupt and resulting in the loss of his high-paying job. It was during this time that Sabrina became fixated on moving to London. Without much discussion with her partner, she made the decision to relocate, hoping for a fresh start in one of the world's major financial centers. Maduni followed her to London and managed to secure a job at a prominent English bank. However, Sabrina faced difficulties in establishing herself in the fashion industry. Despite her lack of skills, experience, and formal education in the fields of design, modeling, and makeup artistry, Sabrina Kouider aspired to pursue these careers. However, due to these limitations, she had to adjust her expectations and explore other job opportunities. Over time, she worked in various roles such as a nanny, call CN employee, cafe worker, and even tried her hand at network marketing. Sabrina's pursuit of love took a different turn when she rediscovered her passion for music, leading her to add the titles of musician and composer to her resume. Despite her enthusiasm, Sabrina faced challenges in finding professional opportunities within the music industry. She attended numerous auditions and social events, hoping to establish valuable connections. It was at one of these events that she fortuitously crossed paths with Mark Walton, a renowned musician, songwriter, and founding member of the famous Irish boy band, Boyzone. After leaving the group, Mark had become a successful producer and music mogul, collaborating with esteemed artists such as Jennifer Lopez, Jessica Simpson, and Lady Gaga. By 2016, his net worth had surpassed $1 billion. Mark was precisely the kind of person Sabrina had always dreamed of meeting, a gateway to a world of fame and luxury. Sabrina managed to captivate Mark with her beauty and charisma, leaving a lasting impression on him. He openly admitted to falling in love with her at first sight and couldn't stop thinking about her. Sabrina's relationship with her then partner, Maduni, quickly ended as she saw a promising future with Mark. His previous relationship and child did not deter her from pursuing their connection. Within a few weeks, the couple moved in together, settling in a luxurious house located in an upscale area of London. Mark generously covered all the expenses, including the rent for the extravagant house chosen by Sabrina. For several months, Sabrina lived the opulent life she had always yearned for, rubbing shoulders with celebrities, attending exclusive events, donning couture clothing, and even gracing the pages of glossy magazines. However, managing a relationship with Mark proved to be a challenge for Sabrina. Sabrina's fear of losing Mark consumed her, causing her to lose control of her emotions and become increasingly jealous of every woman in his vicinity. Over time, her demands grew as she sought more and more extravagant gifts and luxuries. Mark tried to appease her by showering her with designer clothes, jewelry, and extravagant outings, but it was never enough to satisfy her insatiable desires. The constant turnover of staff and nannies in their home was a result of Sabrina's irrational paranoia, believing that they were either stealing from or trying to seduce Mark. Eventually, her irrational behavior pushed Mark to his breaking point. In 2011, he ended their relationship and left for California, leaving Sabrina with nothing. Losing Mark also meant losing the luxurious lifestyle she had grown accustomed to. Desperate to win him back, Sabrina resorted to giving interviews where she accused Mark of cruel violence and substance abuse. She even went as far as calling him, crying and begging for his return, and even threatening to take her own life. However, none of these tactics succeeded in bringing him back. Realizing that she had lost Mark Walton, Sabrina turned to her ex-partner, Maid, who still harbored feelings for her. Maid, a successful bank executive, immediately forgave her and took her back. Shortly after their reunion, Sabrina discovered that she was pregnant and informed Walton. In response, Walton expressed his willingness, through his lawyers, to provide for the child and Sabrina by offering a monthly allowance. However, he insisted on a paternity test after the child's birth to confirm his fatherhood. Sabrina's refusal to undergo the test, which could have secured her substantial regular payments, hinted at her uncertainty about the child's paternity. Instead of agreeing to the test, she demanded that Walton double the proposed allowance. When he refused, she declared war on the musician, taking to social media to spread false claims about his obsession with her, his insane jealousy towards Maid, and even physical threats against them. Walton was accused by her of breaking into their home, assaulting Maid, scaring the children, and sexually assaulting her in unnatural ways. However, she couldn't provide evidence to support her claims as Walton had a solid alibi, having been in the United States since their breakup. After Walton filed a defamation lawsuit and the police threatened action against her, Sabrina temporarily stopped accusing her ex-boyfriend. She settled in Wimbledon, southwest London, with Maid and their 2 children, leading a seemingly peaceful life as the conflict seemed to have been resolved. Sabrina Kouider, who was not used to managing household chores and found it challenging to handle 2 children, decided to hire a nanny who could also help with housework. She posted a job advertisement online and conducted interviews herself. Most candidates did not meet her expectations, and those who did not stay long in her household. A young French woman named Sophie Lionnet responded to the advertisement. At the time, Sophie, who was 19 years old, was in her provincial hometown in France, so the interview was conducted via video call. This modest and unassuming provincial agreed to all the terms, including childcare, household help, and cooking, for a symbolic weekly pay of £50, which included full board and lodging with the employer. Sophie was born on January 7, 1996, in the small town of Troyes located between Auxerre and Sens. Her parents, Catherine and Patrick Lionnet, were simple workers leading a modest, if not poor, lifestyle. After completing school, Sophie obtained a diploma in childcare, but did not want to work in her province. Instead, she aspired to move to a big city. Known for her shyness, quietness, and plain appearance, but also for her kindness and open-heartedness, Sophie was loved by those who knew her. She wore glasses due to poor vision, which made her somewhat self-conscious. During their conversation, Kouider realized that Sophie would be an ideal target for her manipulations. Furthermore, Sophie had a strong desire to gain practical experience and obtain positive references, which motivated her to accept a job with minimal wages. She believed that Sabrina, her employer, was a serious and dependable individual, and she even shared this information with her parents before embarking on her journey to London. Initially, Sophie had a positive experience working for Kouider and saw it as a great opportunity to kickstart. She quickly formed a bond with the children, fulfilled her contractual obligations regarding household chores, and had enough free time and resources to enhance her English skills and explore the city's attractions. This harmonious period lasted for several months, and everything seemed to be going well. However, problems arose when Maid lost his job, leaving the family solely reliant on the monthly child support payments from Walton. Sabrina demanded increased financial support from Walton, who, in response, requested a DNA test to confirm his paternity. The family faced significant financial difficulties, struggling to afford the expensive rent and basic living expenses. Sabrina, unwilling to make any sacrifices to her luxurious lifestyle and desperate to maintain her status as a socialite, became irritable and aggressive, often directing her anger towards the young nanny. In an attempt to improve their financial situation, the couple ventured into starting a bakery business using their remaining funds, but unfortunately it failed. Subsequently, Sabrina turned to Walton, requesting a substantial amount of money to launch her own clothing line. However, her request was met with a firm refusal, leading to tears and complaints about their impoverished state. Sabrina frequently vented her frustrations about her ex-lover to Lionette, and the nanny tried her best to console her employer. The events that unfolded next vary depending on the source. According to one version, Kouider devised a plan to manipulate Sophie and use her as a means to blackmail Walton. She aimed to portray Sophie as Walton's accomplice and lover, claiming that she had been planted in their home to disrupt their lives and put the children in danger. Sabrina alleged that the naive Sophie was infatuated with Walton, who was using her as a tool for revenge. Sophie firmly believed that gathering evidence of the nanny's confessions through audio or video recordings and presenting them to the authorities would be enough to seek compensation from Walton for his atrocious actions. However, she adamantly refused to provide false statements on camera. Kouider's legal team, on the other hand, argued in court that due to Sabrina's mental disorder, she genuinely believed in her conspiracy theory and viewed Sophie as a foe and a danger to her family. They claimed that she did not coerce the nanny into giving false testimony, but sincerely believed that Sophie was an accomplice of Walton, infiltrating their household to cause harm. Irrespective of the truth, Sophie's life quickly transformed into a harrowing nightmare. Initially, as a young French woman, Sophie Lionette was burdened with additional responsibilities without any corresponding increase in her meager salary. Gradually, she found herself engrossed in ceaseless chores from dawn till late at night, devoid of personal time and essentially imprisoned within the confines of the house. Eventually, her wages were completely withheld, and to prevent her from escaping or returning to France, her employers confiscated her passport, effectively making her a captive. Her communication with her family was strictly monitored. The situation deteriorated further. Sophie was barely provided with enough food and constantly coerced into giving false statements against Walton, whom she had never met or had any knowledge of. She was subjected to communication solely through screams, insults, and threats, accused of theft and other wrongdoings. The Kouiders threatened her with imprisonment if she failed to comply with their demands against the musician. When verbal abuse and blackmail proved ineffective, they resorted to more brutal and sophisticated methods. Sophie was forcibly relocated to a frigid basement, where she spent all her time when not working. With meager meals only once or twice a day, she became emaciated and weak. However, the cold and hunger were not the worst of her suffering. Physical abuse became the most agonizing phase. It commenced with slaps and hair pulling, but escalated when Sabrina violently assaulted Sophie, breaking her nose. Sabrina's anger seemed to be unleashed at the sight of blood, resulting in daily beatings for Sophie. Each day, Sabrina devised new cruel methods to inflict unbearable pain and suffering on her. The basement of their opulent London residence transformed into a horrifying torture chamber for Lionette, with no hope of rescue. In the late summer of 2017, Sabrina Kouider took Sophie Lionette to a police station, claiming that Sophie was prepared to testify against Mark Walton, with whom she allegedly had a romantic and criminal relationship. Sabrina accused Walton of sending Sophie to their house to abuse the children. However, Sophie remained silent, refusing to comply with Sabrina's demands. Concerned about Sophie's well-being, the police decided to speak with her privately in a separate room. This infuriated Sabrina, as she feared Sophie would expose the horrors taking place in their home and implicate her and her husband. Strangely, Sophie chose not to disclose anything or seek help. The police's response was equally puzzling. Despite witnessing a malnourished, frightened, and physically weakened young woman, they did not call for medical or psychological assistance to ensure her safety and well-being. At that time, the 21-year-old nanny weighed less than 40 kg, had lost some of her hair, was missing a front tooth, and had a noticeable limp. However, none of these alarming signs raised any concern among the officers, who simply allowed everyone to go home. In mid-September, Sophie made a final tearful call to her mother, expressing her desire to return home but lacking the funds to do so. Without prying for details, Catherine assured her daughter that she would purchase a ticket and urged her to pack her bags immediately. Little did Catherine know that this would be the last time she would hear Sophie's voice. A few days later, on September 20th, 2017, in the evening, the Kouider's neighbors alerted the police about a fire in their yard. It wasn't just the fire that alarmed them, but also the sickening, greasy odor emanating from it. Upon smelling the acrid odor of burning flesh and hair, a neighbor quickly identified the source of the stench. Thick smoke filled the air, permeating clothes and skin with its unpleasant scent, stretching half a block. Firefighters and a police car soon arrived at the scene, where the calm house owners greeted them, seemingly unaware of the reason for the emergency services visit. Following the extinguishing of the fire, a charred human hand was found in the ashes. The couple was promptly taken into custody, and severely burnt human remains were recovered from the fire. The gender and age of the deceased were initially unknown, but the body was later identified as Sophie Lyonette's, recognized by the melted metal frame of her glasses embedded in the skull. Determining the cause of Sophie Lyonette's death proved to be a challenge, as her body had been extensively damaged by the fire. Forensic experts discovered multiple fractures, cracks, and evidence of blunt force trauma on her skull and limbs, indicating she had sustained these injuries while still alive. Furthermore, several missing teeth and severe damage to her nose suggested that Sophie had endured prolonged and brutal beatings, resulting in broken bones and knocked out teeth. Unfortunately, due to the extent of the fire damage, assessing her internal organs and identifying any penetrating wounds was impossible. The discovery of disturbing video recordings in the house depicted Sophie being tortured and coerced into making false confessions, shedding light on the sadistic nature of her captors. She had been subjected to various forms of torture, including beatings with fists, an iron cord, a golf club, and electric shocks. Additionally, she was forced to endure humiliating acts, such as submerging her head in a toilet. Experts believe that Sophie likely died from asphyxiation before being burned, sparing her from the agony of being alive during the burning process. Sabrina Kouider and Ouissam Madouni vehemently denied any wrongdoing and showed no signs of remorse for their heinous crime. In a chilling display of indifference, Madouni calmly went to a nearby supermarket after the murder to purchase firelighter fluid for burning the victim's body and dinner for his own family, as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. The initial court proceedings against this sadistic couple commenced in March 2018. Sabrina attempted to portray herself as a victim, placing the blame on Mark Walton for driving her to a pathological state through relentless torment. Medical examinations confirmed that Sabrina suffered from mental disorders, but she was deemed mentally competent and capable of understanding her actions. Physically healthy but psychologically dependent on Sabrina, Madouni was under her complete domination and blindly obedient to her every command. A former lover of Sabrina, testifying in court, described her as a cunning manipulator rather than a deranged individual, as she meticulously calculated her every move. Another witness revealed that she consistently fabricated enemies, but always did so with selfish motives and rationality. On June 26, 2018, the court found the couple guilty of torturing, humiliating, and ultimately murdering their nanny under particularly aggravating circumstances. They were sentenced to life imprisonment, with the possibility of parole only after serving a minimum of 30 years. Despite the overwhelming evidence against them, neither of them admitted guilt and continuously appealed in an attempt to lessen their sentences. Sabrina made an unsuccessful attempt to feign insanity, hoping to be transferred from prison to a hospital. Mark Walton, who was present during the trial, expressed deep remorse for his ex-lover's actions, as she committed these unspeakable acts in an attempt to gain his attention and financial compensation. He extended his heartfelt condolences to the victim's grieving parents and voluntarily issued a substantial check to support the devastated family who tragically lost their beloved daughter.